the stream. It is me, and we are chilling, and we have a new addition to the stream today. Everyone say hello to San, the partner in crime here, who has been helping me on the back end and with any questions I have when I get kind of writer's block in my creative space. But go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hello, hello, hi friends, hello, hi stream. Um, as mentioned, my name is San, also known as the Lore Master, owner operator of the Lore Masters Guild, which the lovely Mitchell here is a very important part of. And yeah, we are writing a D&D adventure together. Mitchell is the force behind all of these beautiful maps that are bringing our world to life. Um, and when I say that, I mean it completely. Like, just with the Friday campaign that we've been running for about 3 years, Mitchell, with the help of Dungeon Alchemist, an application that we really love, has brought some really amazing scenes to life, like our circus and some of those special places that our main characters call home. And to see him do it again with this new, fresh idea that we're crafting from the ground up together is, well, I'm just beside myself every time I look at what he's done. But I won't gush too much. I'll let the work speak for itself. But yeah, we're here to chat today. We're here to chat a little bit more about what we want, what we're hoping to see, what we're working towards. And I'm just excited that we got this thing working.
Yeah, this is
Um,
new for both of us, so we're a little excited here. I got collisions off. Everybody, collisions off.
Collisions off
Um,
always.
always. So yeah, I'm just gonna get started on this the room that I left off telling you about here. I'm gonna finish this the top of the castle, and I want to see what it looks like, so then we can like kind of visualize how those stained glass pieces are gonna look. I mean, might
And I just gotta
maybe these will
refresh
be
here.
double high.
And oh gosh, there I am. And
That's
there you
me.
are. Okay,
Hi.
I love this. That's adorable. Yeah. So, I mean, I think when we left off yesterday, we were mostly talking about what we wanted to see, um, some of these spaces that we haven't yet fleshed out to look like. And I know off stream we talked a little bit about what we were going to do in the case of these third floors, these tertiary floors, and what we want those to look like as well. Which I don't know if we're there exactly yet, but I've had some theories, some ideas, especially since we were looking for like roofs and things like that, and we were looking for the community workshop, which is an amazing asset. Like you were saying, like Cyberpunk is one of those games that they open themselves up to be modded by the community, and it completely changes the lifeblood of the game.
Literally saved the
And I think,
game. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that Dungeon Alchemist was really smart to open their workshop up to all these assets, and it's been so helpful. I haven't yet found any roofs there that I'm like particularly in love with.
No.
I feel like I have a lot in mind about, in like in regards of like more like castle structures, like parapets and like long cylindrical cones. Um, feeling very fairy tale, feeling very fortress. And I'm not sure if that's something that we're gonna have to cheat like you have been doing with some like peeling some assets together
Some
and
cheatsy doodles? We love cheatsy
some
doodles.
cheatsy doodles. Some cheatsy doodles with the collisions off, because collisions off always. Um, but yeah, I I personally don't presume to know, because map making is, I don't want to say so out of my realm, but it's not my forte. It's not
Very
my
much at this
expertise.
point. I mean, I've been talking a lot to the people on the community there on Dungeon Alchemist Discord, and just like in general, it's kind of like you can see people who have used the system a lot more and how they respond to things because everything in Dungeon Alchemist is like a what if and like a an and you can but like there's so many things that you're able to do in just a few aspects, but it doesn't mean you can't do them. It just you have to do them a certain way. So it's like you can kind of like the system. The more you play with it, the more you kind of like understand these weird tools and workarounds, and like so yeah, like very much spending all these hours has definitely done wonders for little
Yeah.
tricks and bobs.
Yeah.
Let's see,
And
get you in there, nice.
I think the biggest thing about just any endeavor like this is that, um, especially since like we get to put our heads together, I feel like when you create any part of this world, I get to look at that and sort of impose my imagination on something that's a little more concrete, that's a little more set in stone, and it helps me to make a lot more decisions. And I think that it would just be 10 times harder if I was trying to do all of it alone. So I'm just very thankful. And I mean, just like look at what we're working with. Like, can you zoom out for us? Can you please just like
I
zoom out?
haven't
Like,
haven't done like a
look at
pan.
what we're working with. Like, this is second floor. This is it's gorgeous. It's like I can't rant and rave about it enough. And like we're not done. And that just keeps blowing my mind.
So
I'm
like
really
on
excited.
on what you were saying about like like having that visual kind of helps you put things to text or kind of think things in your mind in your canon thought. Um, and like I feel like it's like the same thing for me in an aspect of like when I say put this whole floor down and it starts very look at the right side, it's very blank, indescriptive, and then I put banisters and then I put these shell of a room and I'm like wow I can kind of be inspired to see what's going to go in each room. And like same thing, I say it all the time. Like when you throw the trees and the outside aesthetic onto a build, you're like, whoa, like enhance again. Like your thematic starts growing to the point where like your inspiration just comes flowing out like crazy. Which is I've said this before. I think this is why Alchemist is like it's so good. Is because when I did map creation as like freehand on Photoshop, I started with blank canvas every time. Started with blank canvas, right? With this, you start with a meadow. You start with the terrain. You start with some pieces that have look and shape. So like that visual aid is there for you like the entire time you're building, and it just
Mm-hmm.
grows as you place pieces to the point where you're completely immersed in your build and you forget about thinking about placing pieces and they just start flowing off the asset board, like
It becomes less of like, what do I do with all this space and what do I do with this blank canvas, and more like, oh, this fits here perfectly.
yeah.
This is exactly what this area needs. Because you can visualize it, you can see it right in front of you.
Get rid of that. Get rid of that.
But yeah, so for me at this moment, the thing that I'm working on and trying to make the most progress on,
Halfway.
so I'm trying to really sit down with the ideas that I'm having about the progression system. And I keep talking about this mostly to keep it in my own mind, but simply because we have a backdrop of a college campus that we're using. And thematically, the entire adventure is about learning the system and learning about role playing and learning sort of about tabletop role playing games in general. But the main ethos is that I would want players to walk away and dungeon masters to walk away at the end of this adventure as not just level five characters, but level five players, like and maybe even beyond. I want them to understand the intrinsic parts of the game that aren't exactly, I should say, that aren't exactly spelled out and written out. I want them to be able to be autonomous and be able to roll with the punches. And I think the most important part of a tabletop role playing game is improv. And without improv, it becomes a very stale, very narrow experience. And some of the best things that I've been able to to DM and facilitate have been moments of pure unadulterated improv. Like
Mm-hmm.
like for instance, my one of my favorite moments recently from our Friday game was the Once and Future King.
It's a, and it's like
Like
so ridiculous and unimportant to our story. Like on that minutia of a campaign, like those are the things you remember. That's the fun
remember,
stuff. You
yeah,
know, like those you'll always remember the pillars of the story and like what your characters did over the arc of a 1 year campaign or 6 months, etc. But like that story when you're like, oh, remember when we did that cool thing? Like insta story, insta classic, like so
yeah.
cool. Love the Once Future
And that's
King.
my main aim. That is my main aim right now, is to create a setting, is to create a world that is so open and so full that you do feel empowered to do what it is that you would love, what you can see yourself doing. So you want to be student body president, we got you. You want to be a loner and make everyone a little uncomfortable, we can do that for you. But I love telling a story about the players and their characters, and I want the spaces that we're creating here to feel like they facilitate that as well. So besides just having a curriculum and sort of throwing things to the wayside and trying to focus on like an overarching theme or an overarching, I should say not theme, an overarching um, narrative, which there will be. I think it's important in a story to drive the story forward with those elements. But for those of us who feel comfortable telling an improvisational story, who feel comfortable, being able to roll with punches and tell something that's a little longer form, I want to set a backdrop that allows you to just live and explore in this place. Um, and I don't know. I think I have some good ideas, some big ideas.
You
We're still
definitely have
working
some
them
good
through.
ideas. You definitely have some big ideas.
Some big ideas that I'm trying to chew through.
I'm just
But
like
yeah,
I'm
I
fooling
have a
around
lot
right
of
now. Like throwing you said roofs, so I was like, oh my god, I need to
yeah.
all the assets I got from the community. I need to go play around.
And I
I don't
and
know. I'm
so
not
like these
sold.
domes, I'm a fan, but like unfortunately, just the fit isn't working
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, hi
This,
Seven Up.
this
Seven
red.
Up says the bad times are memorable as well. Like when the party comes across another sleeping giant, one looks at the mischievous player and says, "Now, Daryl, don't try to steal its nose hair this time." Daryl doesn't have a scroll of resurrection this time. Just a bra moment, but still a memorable moment. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like being able to set your players loose and for them to see the consequences of their own actions makes the story 110,000 times richer. And that is exactly what we want. We want
I'd like to
some
add to that as
small chess
well.
pieces.
Like a lot of people have this connotation or like or I think especially new players have this connotation where they think you can do wrong things or bad things in D&D, and like you just said, like sometimes those bad moments are memorable. Sometimes those are the funny, slap knee moments where you can keep it on the topic throughout the campaign, that little dig that always, but it's like it builds character, it builds story. It's like there's never a bad thing or a wrong thing to do. um do that weird crazy thing that you want to do and then have it fail, and then now you have a story about failure, and now you have a story about um how you overcome that failure, right? There's always a story, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I these fit much more than anything else is fit. That red,
Oh yeah, I actually kind of like them. They're a little oriental. It feels.
a tad. I might have to change my foundation, but like, what do you think about two of these? I honestly like I don't hate this right now. Mm, c'est
Okay,
possible.
okay.
We'll
We'll
keep
see.
it. We'll
We'll
keep it.
see.
We'll keep
We'll
it
see.
there in the back of the brain. I gotta do other stuff before I get into that, anyways. So
Mm.
there's still a chance for you, community, to give me something just oh so perfect for my rooftops, and drop it into the workshop for me. There's still chance. Let's see, Gothic.
You heard it here first. Go out
Yeah.
there and make peace for us.
I need a 3D
Right
designer.
now. Right now.
One
You
day
got
I'll
it
get
right now.
back. I think after I get through my recovery and stuff, I'll probably get back into ZBrush a little bit.
Yeah, because you were in the 3D modeling world for a little while.
I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. I recommend it to anybody who's curious. Just give it a try. Give it a whirl.
Ooh, 7 Up says mossy stonework and rooftops would look fire. I agree. That leans itself more towards what we were looking at with like sort of a sprawling, open, spacious, airy fortress, but
Yeah, I
also
agree
slightly
too.
being reclaimed and like pressed into the wilderness around it.
This roof would totally have moss on it. It would be a little bit, lost to nature.
Yeah,
Is that
those
too
archways
big?
look really good too.
I love this is a new addition that they added, the Gothic Stone, and I just ran with it on this build for us, and I just really love it. It's just has such a good look, and there's a lot to it as well. So it's not like you're looking for pieces. Like there's a lot of pieces that you can use, especially these archways, which save me on the, as you know, lack of doors.
Oh, I'm aware.
And everybody on my stream is aware too. I posted something in Dungeon Alchemist community Discord as well. I was like, hey, any chance we could maybe get some of these? Like a little plug for your homie. Whatever, I'm moving down there. I don't want to move. There we are. All right. So yeah, would you? I mean, you finished up most of the synopsis. What do you plan on kind of getting started on first?
I think what I really have in the back of my mind at the moment is trying to hash out what this curriculum looks like,
Hmm.
what it looks like for people to join these classes. And um, remember that strange message I sent you a couple days ago in
Maybe.
like the middle of the night about The Sims?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I love The Sims. I've always loved The Sims. I think it's a great game. I love simulators like that because you get to live vicariously through them, and I think it very much informs how I DM my games because high drama, high fantasy, all that. We love it and we live for it. But especially with like The Sims 4 and a lot of the expansion packs that they've done, they give you more of a hands-on approach to a lot of the things that were kind of just handled before. So like when you would send whatever sim you had created off to go to work, they would just disappear. They would disappear for however many hours and they would come back. Now, well, and then also on top of that, there were tasks that you could complete, like gaining certain skills or doing a certain daily task. Now with the expansion packs, you get to step further into that, and you get to follow your sim to work, and you get to take a more active role. And some of the things that I wanted to take away from that I think work well in a role playing system, and especially utilizes a lot of the skill systems and tool systems that kind of go to the wayside otherwise, is enforcing that. Now you have daily tasks. Now you have a quota of certain tasks and skill checks and or things that you must do, complete, or see or find to uh, continue your progression. And so, you know, it's not completely analogous, but like you gotta study, you gotta do your homework, you gotta uh, work out. If you are a marshal, you gotta make sure you're strong enough to carry a 100-pound suit of armor on your body while walking around and doing normal everyday things. Um, so I'm right now fleshing out what that would look like, and it starts with me kind of cataloging, which I've already started to do, each of the classes specifically. And I'm still debating with myself whether or not, well, not only debating with myself, the OGL only goes so far. So
Mm.
I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I can create content for, and what I kind of have to just like step back and make broader general rules for instead. Because some of the subclass items and general subclasses might not be open to OGL, so I might not be able to create sort of systems that are based around going into that. But it might just look like, you know, level one as a wizard is you need to spend um, X amount of time doing X, or you need to perhaps successfully research an item X amount of times, right? And like I had mentioned before, we'll definitely heavily be leaning on Xanathar's rules for downtime because I absolutely adore them, and the supplemental rules for things like downtime, supernatural regions, are things that we're going to be looking at as well that were introduced in Tasha's. Because again, another supplement that I absolutely adore. But that's sort of what's on my mind right now. And I have some ideas in my notebooks here and there, but it's it escapes me. It escapes me. It's I'm trying to chew on the idea enough that I can take it apart and take the smaller parts, um, and start working and iterating on them. Uh, but I'm still chewing. I'm still chewing.
Such.
Um, I'm chewing. I'm chewing. I'm chewing on it. It's like you said, it feels like a really big idea because there are a lot of avenues to go, and I just need to sit down and start picking a direction. And I feel like what always ends up being easy for me is once I've got the first level or the first version of something done, um, then it becomes way easier for me to say, okay, well, if this, then that, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Yep.
that happened with the mercenary class that we had built, where you gave me a little earworm about a demolitionist when I had started speaking about the fact that no one uses equipment items well, and they're kind of just they're left for dead. And thus the mercenary was born. We started with the demolitionist, and once that got fleshed out, the the eight other subclasses came pretty easy. Um, and yeah, I think
Dude,
that's the key to superpower.
I love that. Like just like a couple weeks ago, level 20 prestige, and I'm out there using a trap, a grappling hook, smoke grenades. Like I'm level 20. I got no business using the lowest cost and freaking items, but like yeah, that the mercenary really
Making
just
them
brings
really,
it alive.
really, really useful. Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking towards things that I've already created, and I'm hoping that we can, yeah, we can find
I think I found my
a
new
lot of
favorite
cohesion between them.
jam, dude. I'm just been vibing on this synth wave over here.
Not
Let's.
synthwave, anything but synthwave.
I told you you're more than welcome to find something.
It's
But
okay.
it's just like I literally
I
I
like
just
your
like
music.
I do a full scroll and then I just like full scroll and then I just click one. I pick one.
But this is a good question. See, we have two viewers right now. If I'm not sure. What would y'all like to see if you were playing a character that is going to a prestigious academy to learn more about their craft? What would make you feel like thematically it's not just a backdrop, right? Because that's the biggest thing for me. I don't want it to just feel like, oh, we're at school, that's it. You know, I want there to be some gravity to the location more than just it's pretty and it's cool and you're a student. I definitely want it to feel like there is a course load. There are reasons that you're here and you are fulfilling those reasons. But I also don't want to burden players where they feel like, oh God, like I am in school. Like I some
I
of the
think
first iterations that I had of this like involved full blown tests,
yeah.
involved like full blown like curriculums. Like
Yeah.
I had a player of mine create a syllabus for a graviturgy course, and I was gonna iterate off of that and use that for all things that we were gonna employ in this adventure. But looking at it and looking at just like not only the work on the DM but the work on the player, it was pretty intense. It was pretty intense. So I'm trying to work those things back. And like I said, The Sims gave me a lot of ideas because even though, each of those Sims has like daily tasks and requirements for promotions and things like that, like, for example, if you're in the entertainment line of work, usually your daily task is something like write jokes or practice music. And you'll have a promotion task for each level of promotion, and it could be something like reach a certain skill level or reach or do something X amount of times. So I'm sort of looking at that as to how we do this progression system, so that way it's light enough that you can do those things and continue to play your character, because there will be things that they perhaps want to do, they already have in their mind. It may be something that you find yourself doing already as the character in just your everyday role playing, um, but it still leads towards the greater um, sort of goal at the end of it all.
I
So
feel like
yeah, I'm
that's
curious.
that's where like the crux of the design is gonna be, because we want people to know how to do that, and I feel like it's an important skill as a DM. And it's something that Wizards of the Coast or like regular modules don't really try to tackle as much. Like it's because like I very much see like when you're writing this, there's going to be like a storyline and like a regular module that could just be like stand next to any other module, but then there's all this other stuff that's really important, like the extracurriculars, the class life. We were talking before about like taking player backgrounds and trying to work them into a story and how that looks for a DM and that process. uh, so yeah, like some of these challenges are going to be challenging, I think, but we've been, at least you have been, and I've been there with you with for most of it, have been experimenting and playing with this idea in sessions for what 3+ years now. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like the design and the shape of the game that we play on our Friday sessions.
Yeah, it's a concept that I've definitely been in love with for quite some time. I think that personally, uh, I just absolutely love telling a character-based story. Um, I just, I think that the players being invested in what's going on in the broader scheme of it all is the fastest way to create a deep connection between them and the story. If you have a direct influence and a direct bearing in exactly what is going on, you're going to show up and be present. You're going to show up and you're going to want to make impactful decisions because you know that you can. It's not just some overarching story that you have no real power in. You're not just being thrust into a situation and now you have to act. No, this is your character's story and you are playing it. Like, we have so much power to tell these stories. Why confine ourselves? It has always been my idea.
I
So
guess.
Seven Up says,
Yeah.
I'd recommend a lot of newer GMs wishing to run more descriptive games to try out the text game Zork. Not just to understand how descriptors add a lot to a scene, but the imagery they convey is superb for players, as the theater of the mind is so potent. especially when combined with a physical backdrop to move your character piece around on. You wouldn't mind an example of a dungeon room I wrote before, right? No, I wouldn't mind at all. Yeah, 3 plus years. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. We see a lot of iterations. We are in season 3, which will be coming to a close pretty soon. I think I think though we love the story very very deeply, it may be coming to an end. I think it's time that we move into a new era and we start to try some new things. But we we've definitely come very very far. We started with Divine Favors, which was um, which was a very your it was a very interesting story, and not to mention it actually started at the Lyceum, my first
It
iteration of
did,
the
yeah.
story, which is kind of like it's very full circle. That like now we're gonna this campaign's gonna end and we're gonna go back to the Lyceum with this new revamped, very polished idea. But that campaign did this campaign did start with the Lyceum in the first place, and then I just had a couple ideas, and it was really only 2 or 3 sessions that we were in the Lyceum, and it was at that point that everyone was graduating, so we had kind of skipped towards the end, and we did exams, which was my first introduction to teaching people the rules through thematic gameplay. And one of those trials was like a martial trial on a battlefield where I had set a goblin at the end of this battlefield with parapets and low hanging walls in between. Your goal was to reach a civilian dummy, bring them to safety, and then to take out the goblin archer who's standing at the top of the parapet. And the players were implored to use all their different types of action. They were implored to use the cover. And basically, you did not want to get shot. It was you get shot, you get out, and you have 3 chances to do it. And whoever does it the fastest is the highest ranked. And it was very, very simple, but it taught people about bonus actions, your movement, and the general economy of combat. And it also taught them how to think strategically on a battlefield like that, where you get to make any choice you want. And I've seen people create all different types of situations for themselves. There have been players who've completely blown my mind. They have done things like bum rush the goblin, and yeah, bum rush the goblin from straight out, and then went back to save the civilian afterwards. People who've done it in one round, all types of crazy things that I never thought were possible. That just proved to me that I, as a DM, have infinite amounts to learn from my players and giving them tools and giving them a sandbox. Let them
So
explore.
let's talk about that because that's something that I significantly learned as a DM in my couple years doing it. And like no matter what you prepare and what you do, your players are always, always, always gonna find a new, creative, fun way to solve said issue, problem, or challenge. And I just remember the Light Within lasted just over a year. Like the amount of times I was blown away by like Joe or Ben and their decision process to do something completely out of what I've prepared, and then forcing me to learn the ability to pivot and be flexible as a DM and to yes and to find a way narratively to make these wild ideas work that I wasn't prepared for. But I'm not going to sit on my hands and just let let the scene get away from me. And those are like really tough lessons to learn. And I think mainly the best way to learn them is just to do them, like just be in the driver's
Do it.
seat, and be with people that you're
Exactly.
comfortable with making those decisions, so some friends or some people that are very nice to be around. Much is a skill just like playing as a character is, so nobody's just I mean, there's some people who are better than others at things right away, but nobody just becomes the best DM overnight. It just doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, I agree completely. think some of the things that like you gain as a skill are learning prose, are learning how to set up scenes so that way there's enough information that the players feel empowered to act in those scenes, um, and enough uh, effort and description from you to feel like um, you have given them a very vivid image in their mind. Um, and look at this. Like, so Seven Up writes. This is an example of a dungeon room that they've written.
Yeah.
The ominous clinking of chains can be heard scraping as you enter a filthy, blood-crusted room. Claw marks run up and down the cracked walls. You can still see footsteps in the muck of the last person to walk on the grimy floor. Torches in the room are unlit, yet an unearthly glow faintly illuminates the room, enough to reveal itself as you see their exit along the right hand wall. Yet something stirs in the gloom, obstructing your vision of the door, a lump that moves oddly. Like, come on. Like, come on.
Beautiful.
Come on.
Beautiful.
I have so many questions. I want to go check out all of these things. I'm ready with my perception check. I've also got my sacred flame ready because
A little spooked.
like, you know, all of these things. And I think that's the important part about just getting in the thick of it and doing the thick of it. Also, reading helps for those of you who are readers, avid readers. Steal, steal from the writers that you love. They have given you their ideas for a reason. I hold on. My One of my favorite books, and possibly the reason why
Okay.
I DM and speak the way I do, is Jonathan Norrell and Mr. Strange. This book has some of the most beautiful prose that I've ever found, and it speaks about magic in some of the most interesting and sort of, it feels mysterious. It feels undefinable. It feels like you have little to no inclining of what exactly is held in those very intense passages where so Susanna speaks about how these things come about. There's always this air of mystery, and you have one character trying to break this down into a science, trying to determine it, and you have another character that's the complete foil to this, that just defies everything, and continues to make it so you're always on the edge of your seat, wondering what is going to happen next. Why is it possible that it's going to happen? And it's just Jonathan Norrell and Mr. Strange, y'all. This is probably my entire personality, I think. But yeah, I think between reading, between poetry, those are some of the things that I get the most inspiration from when I'm attempting to set a scene, because the imagination is the biggest, most important tool that we use when playing role playing games.
And I think Seven Up brings up a great point of just like you can't like turn a blind eye or shy on elements that you use as important tools as a DM. And it's something that I've kind of like I wouldn't say struggled with, but tried to get better at. Is just like how to accurately or excitingly describe a room that builds character agency, like San keeps bringing up. You want your characters to be excited to step into a room and have those skill checks ready. So what are the words that you can use? And a lot of times you're like playing with the senses. But that's something that's definitely somewhere an avenue that I need to increase and learn at myself.
Yeah, honestly, read more. Honestly, do some research on how writers build stories. Because even though we aren't telling a linear story where we get to say what happens from start to finish, we do get to use a lot of those same literary devices that create amazing passages of of storytelling, because that's what we're doing. We're telling a story. We're
Mm.
collaboratively telling said story, but we are at the end of the day telling a story. And I think it's really important that you understand those basics. And I was really lucky to have studied writing as much as I have, and I feel like that has given me a lot of power to step into the role as a dungeon master, where I definitely have learned a lot. I definitely started out my career as one of the DMs that would write an entire storyline, and you would fit into that storyline, or you would fit into that storyline.
Right.
Um, which is like completely the opposite of who I am now as a dungeon master.
And it's not to say that that's
Completely
that's
different
like
now.
it's bad, and I feel like that's where I was myself when I first started as well, because you don't really know what to do or where to go or those cues to play on. Like there's so many things you have to learn to like be able to do, that.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
yeah,
come back, come back,
wholeheartedly.
come back, come back.
Um,
There we are.
I've definitely went from a chapter book DM to a sandbox DM very quick and in a hurry when I found that I was having a lot more fun. I was having way more fun just going along with the crazy cookie zany things that people had started to say off the cuff, but then leaned into and decided, like, yeah, you know what? Actually,
Let's do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it. Um, I'm gonna bring it up again. I have to bring it up again. Uh, the Once and Future King in our in our in our Friday session during some downtime. Uh, we had our resident Triton,
Oh.
our exiled king of the sea, uh, create a biopic play. Now, our dearest Joe said this off the cuff, and it became a full fledged thing. It became a actual play that a couple scenes were written for and acted out. And oh my god, it's so good. It's so good, and it created a lot of really beautiful moments for the storytelling, where we got to explore not just Atlantis's backstory, where he came from, but we got to peer directly into his mind, right? We got to peer directly into his opinions and his views on what all has happened. Whereas, you know, full disclosure, Atlantis was exiled because he's a bit of a tyrant, and he definitely tried to kill his brother, which is like a no go. We don't do that. But in his mind, he is the rightful king. He was only doing the right thing to protect his kingdom. And when the love of his life that he had stumbled upon in his adventures shunned him for him acting on those same impulses,
And being a
um,
tyrant.
for being a tyrant, for being someone who um, doesn't is quick to use force.
And
Um,
lacks compassion or empathy in their decision making.
and you know,
I
all of these things still kind of go over Atlantis's head, and you can see that in the way that this play rolls out and the things that he chose to exemplify in
That's
his
what I was
actions.
most surprised by. It was like I had these, I guess, ideas of the play in my mind, what it was going to be, and then I was like, wow, this is really just like a journal or like an in appearing into Atlantis' thoughts on life. I was like, I didn't know this was gonna be so much Atlantis perspective, but I love it. And then also I got to have a little fun. I got to do like a character version of some of our other players. So it was like, yeah, it was like kind of like no rules, just like having fun, being loosey goosey with the role play. Um, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. These things are just like struggling to click up to the where I want them to.
Are collisions off?
Yes, that's not the issue. Running it. There you go. It's just like it's a lippy thing.
Always got to make sure collisions off. Collisions off, people. Collisions off.
Well, I mean, if you watch some of my streams, there's a few times where I'm like, hey, if you turn collisions on, it can turn into a tool that you can use to like line things up, et cetera, et cetera. So don't think in a box, everybody. Always be creative. Oh my god, I'm just gonna raise it. Yeah, like this. Done. It's a little off, but I don't care. Yes, like these
Yeah,
banisters, I've been using collision. If you hold control, it turns collisions back on, or the auto placement.
listen, all I know is collisions off. All I know is collisions off. But then
if I've
again,
taught
like I said, I do not.
if I've taught you anything, I at least taught you that.
You taught me that. That is, I hear it all the time, and it's the only thing I know.
Fix my trees. All right.
Very excited to see. I'm gonna. I
Here
always
we
have
go.
a hard time multitasking, especially when writing. But I am gonna at least pull out my sticky notes here and see if I can jot down some ideas. It's very hard for me to write in a not um, contained environment. Like I have headphones on and I'm listening to one song on repeat and I'm just banging something out for a couple hours, and that's usually how I end up writing. Um,
Whatever works. I don't know. It's totally true though. Like when I was in college, whenever I had to write a paper, like it was like this weird voodoo recipe of what would get me motivated to actually get off my ass and do it.
yeah, it's like blinders on,
I need to
blinders
have
on, and like
lunch, but I'm only gonna have a couple bites of it, so it just sits there and lunch looks at me while I work. I want a tea, but I want it to be hot, but I don't want to drink it when it's cold. Like I just make up weird rules, and then I eventually will check all those boxes and complete task. I think I need to sync some
how do
blocks
you
over
write? How do
this.
you write Seven Up? Why is that so interesting? Yeah, exactly. And then stand on your head for about 5 minutes so the blood rushes, and that way you have all of your thinking juices in the right place.
It's a very intricate yet important process.
No, no, no.
Boom.
Not why do you write? Why is that interesting? With multiple eyes. With, it looks like 5 or 6 eyes over there.
Ooh,
It's very
that's yeah.
interesting.
Okay,
Is
Madam
how I read
Vile.
that. Ah, throwback to one of my favorite characters.
Man, I definitely gotta get hats off for that character. Like, it's one of those characters that you just like want to write off as evil, but like the whole time you're like, are they though? So hats off for that.
You know, we love a complex character. Absolutely. I love a complex character more than you would ever know. Because the world is the world is never black and white. And it's so cliche to say, but it's so absolutely true, you know? And don't I've never loved the idea, and this is again why I love Tasha so much, that just being born into a race or just being a person of whatever persuasion makes you evil. That's a lot of the reason why the world is so terrible. It's because people look at each other and expect them to be one thing or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we get to explore what it is that drives these characters, then we get to see a lot more of them as a whole instead. And I think that's really important. Um, and exploring that is how we ourselves find out more about ourselves. You know, I think that tabletop role playing games can be very therapeutic, and can definitely be an exercise in exploring your own ego and your own psyche. Especially, like, I think a lot of people's first characters, which I implore them to do, are based on themselves. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the easiest ways to understand how a role playing game works and how to put yourself in a vicarious situation and live through that situation is instead of having to try to put yourself in someone else's shoes while being in someone else's world and being in someone else's universe, you get to be yourself in that situation. You get to act and react the way that you would, and it lets you make informed decisions that way. And I think that's also a really important tool. But yeah, I I don't know. I love this game too much. I spend too much time thinking about it. It's a little obsession of mine.
I think it's important for players to like have access to feasible methods to kind of like breach that role playing gap, and using your own personalities is just an easy way for you to kind of breach that gap like right away. And then once you have, it becomes a tool. Like so, like for me, what I do is I will make characters based off of my personality, but not me. I'll make it like kind of like me, right? So I'll pick something like
Like
maybe
aspects of your
I'll
personality.
pick an aspect of myself, and then I like to like characterize it a bit too, and like
Exactly.
blow it up and make it bigger than life. Because a lot of times in characters or in lore, like we see these very like not character type people, but like the hero, like these big personality type people. And I feel like for a lot of people, especially me, I tend to be a fairly humble person. Like I don't see myself as some big super hero here to save the day, right? But maybe there's a part or an aspect inside of me that can embody that, and that's what I kind of prey on and utilize when I role play, and kind of try and forget myself and be besides myself and caught up in that new aspect of myself.
Yeah. Like
Oh,
I
you're
think
icing me.
Ison.
Ice me. I heard a lot of ice. Sounded like ice. Or dice. Ice or dice. That noise.
It's the dice.
Oh, the
So
god, the clicky clack.
I got a bowl of dice here. I use it when I'm thinking. Seven Up has an example for us. He says a good example could be a trio, a former party who had been through their adventures, slayed demons, dragons, and corrupt empires. But there's a catch. Everything each After everything, each victory ate away at their empathy and kindness as they peeled layer after layer of corruption of the world, finally ending with their view on everything becoming a raw split view, leaving nothing to chance, causing them to become tyrants of order. Yes, one of my first long form campaigns was based around this idea. So, the Dominion of Man was the campaign that started. I want to say started all of this. Started me as a professional dungeon master because I had DM'd before, but I had simply done it for fun and enjoyment. And I had been life like a forever DM for a very very long time. And the Dominion of Man was based on an order that I created called the Hunters that operated out of the Hellgate Keep. They had occupied it, and it's a location that's just outside of the High Forest. Um, and the Hellgate Keep is said to be set on top of a nexus towards the Abyss and the Nine Hells, so a little bit of a mix of those. Um, and the Hunters organization was being run by a man who had been a part of an adventuring group many, many, many years ago. And in their adventures, they had saved the world many times over, but again and again and again, they kept finding that the same corruption, the same heartlessness, the same evilness was present in all people, you know? It wasn't just based to demons or devils. You know, they could look to the humans beside them and find that they were just as cruel or just as callous. But eventually, they found a source of power on an island that we have created called Menagerie. And Menagerie is the body of a dead god plucked from the astral and fallen to Toril. It wanders around the seas and pops up here and there. But on this same island, they found very powerful crystals And they also found a well, a wishing well, which held a very powerful djinn, and they each made a wish. The bard wished that everything they said came true. The druid wished that they could find peace, and Silas wished to be able to stop the evils of the world at any cost. And in doing so, made himself nigh indefeatable. And he became a very, very powerful tyrant that was slowly working towards an order that would take away free will from all people. And that's exactly how you turn someone who still has these righteous ideals. Silas is not a bad guy because he doesn't do anything with the intention to hurt anyone. In fact, it's the exact opposite. He is working effectively towards complete peace and a beautiful utopia. But the methods of which he's going about them are quite terrible. Um, and it's this idea that nothing is black and white, and it was
Mm.
one of the first themes that I worked with when I was creating like a fully fleshed out campaign that was just, well, I don't want to say fleshed out because we did everything improv from start to finish
Mm.
with that campaign.
Yeah.
But it was just absolutely beautiful, and the story just to this day still blows me away. That was another campaign that ran for about 3 years,
Mhm.
which seems to be like the sweet spot for a lot of campaigns. Well, I should speak that it's a sweet spot for a lot of my
For
campaigns.
your campaigns, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to push anything past 3 years. It's a lot of story, right?
I
I
don't
think.
know.
I
Back to
mean,
back, I've hit 3-year campaigns.
I
I think
yeah.
that's just my stride.
I feel like you can you definitely do a good job at like at continuing the story, But I feel like like what our good friend Ben says all the time. Like what's the story you're trying to tell? Like past 3 years. What is the story you're trying to tell now? Like that's a lot of sessions that you can pack into 3 years with, misses, small hiatuses, etc.
No,
But
we were playing during the height of the pandemic, and sometimes we were playing twice a week.
dude, yeah, we were trying to get double sessions in. We were itching. We were feeling it. Those are the good days. I miss those days. All
Yeah.
right, so I am completely done with the foundational work of the second story. It is now time
Look
to
at that,
make
y'all.
rooms.
Look at that. Come on. We got some. This is absolutely gorgeous. So, this second floor is mostly going to be offices for the professors. This is the main building. So, this is where you'll find the main library, where you'll find some classrooms, the infirmary, etc., etc. But mostly, what you'll find here is just the buildings that every student and or faculty member would need to have access to. Um, so besides that, the other halls are dedicated to the specific avenues of teaching. So there's a hall for those who practice and are connected to the divine. So your clerics, your paladins. There's a hall specifically for our marshals. So yes, you may be a paladin and study some classes at the divine hall, but you're also going to need to go to the martial hall for your physical training. And maybe some multi-class blade slingers or Pact of the Blade warlocks will be in there too, because martial prowess is a part of your kit. And then finally, the hall for the arcane, and that would be anyone who finds that their magic is based specifically on the study of and interpretation of how those mystical forces work. So, of course, you're wizards, but you could even perhaps have a sorcerer there. You could even perhaps have a warlock there. Um, and it's really all about how you feel your character would fit the best in those places. And we also that's another avenue that I'm working on trying to flesh out is what does that sorting system look like? Um, where do we decide where you take your classes and who um, you take those classes alongside. So again, big ideas that we're slowly but surely separating and pulling out. Seven Up says it could give you guys many villains that could occupy their own territories. Having a big bad, which we love a big bad, we love a big bad. Thank you for coining that term, Joss Whedon. Um, Big bad that threatens the world is fun and all, but what if you divided the game up for each villain before culminating in its peak? If you showed mercy or helped reform the villains, they would either assist or be absent from the final fight of the greater, biggest bad. Yes, and that is exactly what I did in The Dominion of Man, where after they had uncovered the story, they went about finding each of that first party, and some of them would join them and help them in the final fight, while others were it was a little harder to do so. But I definitely a thematic that I've used. Oh my gosh! Hi, Maya. Thanks for joining the stream. Always glad to have you. We're just being nerds and talking about our our upcoming adventure that we're writing, the Lyceum, an adventure based around uh, your characters as a player of the game, going to a college for adventures. Um, and right now we're sitting in with my partner, who is just this absolutely amazing map maker, and he um, he is currently working on the second story of the main building to the Lyceum campus. So keep the stream, check it out, hang out. We love when our friends hang out.
Son,
And that's
I
actually
got some apple cider. It's a banner
oh,
day.
you did?
Yes, I finally
Oh
have some. My life is complete.
yes, the apple blight is not ideal.
No,
So
it hit
glad that you were
hard.
able to.
So I told you I went out with Amanda the other over the weekend, right? I was at the party and like someone like offered me an apple cider mimosa, and I was like, um, can I just have a glass of apple cider? And they looked at me weird, and then poured me a glass of apple cider, and I was just like in my glory, had my little bowl, had my cider. I was just like, it's like the happiest person at the party. It's so funny. I'm
Listen,
such a weirdo when I party. It's like I don't
no, you're not, because
know.
first of all, I love apple cider, but I also would have said yes to the apple cider mimosa because I also love apple cider mimosas. Even though I'm really not a drinker, like I don't like to drink. It just I'm a lightweight. I'm like I have like a little sip of like at most I can do a glass of wine. I used to drink a lot. I don't drink a lot
Well,
anymore.
that's where I'm at. Like, I don't really want to. I'm not trying to get drunk. I'm just trying to stay in my vibe, and just the cider is like,
Yeah,
just
listen.
makes it. There was a fire going. It was a fall day. I was like, just in my
Uh,
glory.
yeah, and your glory is right. Oh, did you add salt to the rim to pass the vibe check? Probably not. You just drank the cider straight, huh?
What? I didn't know these things. There's a thing. San knows I'm not up on the things.
It's funny because like I bartended for quite some time, and I've taken a lot of those same ideas of bartending and just added them to like because mocktails, in my opinion, are way better than alcoholic beverages. Mocktails are so good, and like just so you know, I'm not capping. This is one of my favorite things to add to the rim of a glass. It's just if I can. This is a chili lime salt,
Ooh.
and uh, and like that gin that you sent me, Mitchell.
Yeah.
I still sometimes I'll take a little, have a little something, but I really like. I don't love the feeling of being intoxicated.
No,
That's
no.
one
When
thing
I
I
was
don't like.
younger, I think when I was like around like 25, like getting into like my 30s, that's why I just like I don't like being drunk anymore because like I get home and I
Yeah,
want to play my video games or like do my creation
and I
stuff and
can't.
like I can't. It's
I literally can't. I can't do anything. I must lay here and spin with the rest of you.
No, yeah, so I'm just
I'm
like,
like, why did I ever think this was fun? And then I remember all the crazy stuff that I was doing when I was younger, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense because I was absolutely wild, doing absolutely wild
just out and
things.
about, a lot
Don't
of
get me
hanging out,
wrong.
right?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's a time and a place. Like I may be persuaded in a situation to have a couple drinks, but it is very rare. It is very rare. Um, but we digress.
We do digress.
um, yeah. So
Oh,
I think at this point, I'm just really excited to see what it looks like when we've got all these maps finished. Definitely add them to the showcase. Get noticed by Dungeon Alchemist. Sponsor us, maybe. I don't know.
easy,
I don't know.
easy.
I,
Let's do
I'm
a
just,
thing first. Let's do a thing
I'm
first.
just, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You know, if you want to help an up and coming indie game development studio,
We're a studio now.
that's the direction I think we're gonna end up going in. That's the direction that I've always wanted to go in, is to create my own studio. And I think this is we're in the beginnings of that. And on this prestigious Friday the 13th, on this lucky day for black cats like myself, I think we will see the things that we speak come to fruition. So no doubts, no type of yeah, no doubts. We got this. We're in it. 2 minute home skillet biznit. Yeah.
Here we are. I'm just trying
yeah.
to
So
make
what
sure
I'm
these
looking
doors
at,
drop even.
what I'm looking at right now, is the classes and trying to break down what it is that makes up the core of those classes that um, even that an old player, that a new player must understand to truly be able to use them efficiently. What do you mean by shadow work? 7 Up. That's all. This my room is just black. If that's what you're talking about, because I
Very witchy. I love it. It's this theme, and like honestly, like I broke the other day. I was just like, honey. I was like, honey, I feel witchy. She was like, no, you don't. I was like, yes, I do. I was like, I feel very witchy.
Why did you feel witchy?
I don't know. I'm just like, I'm feeling the vibe. I'm getting in the vibe, the Halloween vibe.
I I'm gonna leave this alone for now. I'm gonna leave this alone for now. I have a lot to say, but not here. I think Samhain can be um, very important for some practitioners. I myself am not a witch. I don't identify with the term witch, but I do love my black room because, as you can see by the exposure of the light over here, because I don't have thick curtains, it actually does wonders for bringing light into the room. And I have a lot of plants in this room. Um, and then, as well as, I'm still working on it, but I had to add more mirrors. Mirrors along that wall. I have a mirror here right now that reflects from this wall. So ideally, when I get the mirror that's on this back wall, it'll reflect the light from this window here, and it just will create more refracting light in the room and absolutely explode all over the place. Yeah, I hope that your friends are still your friends after you scare the absolute ever loving shit out of them
Uh,
because I I'm such a jumpy person.
so
Like I
jumpy.
get scared so easily.
So easy.
Not you agreeing. Not you agreeing.
No,
I
me,
do.
me too, me too. Do you remember when I was playing like that spooky game? Which was it? That is like the with the ghosts and stuff. And you're like, Mitch, do something. And I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I'm hiding in this closet and
Oh,
not going
it's
anywhere.
it's like phantasmagoria, phantasmophobia, or something
Yeah,
like that.
Phantasmophobia. Yeah. Which we should play that this Halloween. We're getting into our spooky season here. We gotta get
Maybe
our
I'm a Dead
haunted.
by Daylight kind of
Uh,
person.
I mean, also in that list, on the hill, House on the Hill.
Yes, let's play Betrayal.
Yeah, see, dude, I know I find one that works.
I love Betrayal.
But this is our
That
season. This is when we gotta
really.
roll those out for the Lore Masters channel. Get some
Mhm,
games for all the
mhm.
friends to play.
Yeah, we definitely need some more board game nights happening. Um, so if you're in the chat, you're hanging out, come hang out, play board games. We have Friday Night Magic, so if any of you are Magic the Gathering players, we will be having some pods run Friday Night Magic tonight in our server.
Mm.
That will be lovely. We love it. It's not like I hate the game or anything.
Well, you were at least indifferent to it yesterday.
I go through I go through my phases. Yeah, you better be there, Seven Up. Yeah, unfortunately, everyone knows that I sometimes really dislike playing the Gathering, but honestly, boils down to um, it boils down to the people that you play with. Um, and hopefully, you don't have to play with someone who plays Norin the Wary, or Jin Cataxius, or Ishin, or any of the really freaking annoying ass commanders. Like, I just want to play my janky Pegasus Unicorn Horse deck. You know? I just want to play my old lady food token deck. You know, you know, I just want to have a good time.
No, I feel you. I
I don't
feel
want to
you on
deal.
that.
I don't want to deal with a blood moon
I'm
or
not trying to like
Friday
lose
the
on
10 or
lose
like,
on turn 7 guaranteed every time. Like
oh,
just try,
it's worse than that.
I'm just
It's
trying to play the
worse.
game. I don't want to have to pay you a tithe every turn. Okay.
Every turn. Oh God. Listen, I am guilty as a Ristic Study player.
You have played some tithes, yeah.
I've played some Smotherings. I've played some Ristic Studies. I do often ask if you pay the one or the two, but like I need to get some value too. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's just some card draw. It's just some treasure tokens. Like if you really don't want me to, then just pay it.
There it is. There it is.
Do you like if it's a problem, just pay for it. You're gonna have to pay to get rid of it anyway, so might as well
Mm-hmm.
just pay and let me have it.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know?
And this is it.
All
This
in
is
all,
it.
Magic the Gathering is toxic, okay?
Inherently.
If you play Magic the Gathering, you're toxic. End of story. But come be toxic with us. And
Yeah. We promise we'll be the
um
least toxic people you play.
but yeah, I think I'm really excited to see
Bam. Bop.
what this new era brings for us. And I keep talking about it, but I'm going to bring it up again. We will be running the Lyceum adventure um, once we've gotten once we've got these maps filled out. We'll be using them and play testing through them, and it will definitely help me. I find personally that playing through things helps me develop them way more than just trying to sit here and think of everything out of the air and just pull all these ideas out of the air. I am using aids like looking at what Wizards of the Coast has published and 30 third-party publishers have done as well, especially those supplements and adventures that specifically went into trying to teach people or pose themselves as a introductory adventure based around teaching people how to play the game and how to DM. I'm looking to those things for a lot of inspiration. Um, and I'm also looking to my peers in the community. I spoke to someone via DMs on Twitter, and they gave me some really amazing pointers that helped me get out of the writer's block that I was facing and helped me write the synopsis that we've recently been looking at and sort of looking over. And um, it's definitely helped me put a lot into perspective. So I'm like eternally grateful for our little TTRPG family. Um, so yeah, a lot of great things to look forward to, um, and we're just excited to see it all come to life.
My favorite thing about the community is just like, it's just nice to have people who share interests. Like I have my family and my couple of friends in life, and not a single one of them have any interest in D&D or TTRPG. Like, so it's
Yeah,
like, if it wasn't for the
yeah,
community, I wouldn't have people to talk to about it. I'd have nobody to share my hobby with. I definitely wouldn't be able to play. So I think it's very important to give ourselves an avenue to have something for you, a community for you that kind of is a part of you or embodies your interest in some manner.
yeah. It's absolutely insane. Like I was DMing through meetup groups before before I had found Discord, and I made a Discord a year after it launched, and we were playing on Google Hangouts or we were playing in person. Yeah, Google Hangouts. Mm. And Google Draw. Oh my God, what an era!
Oh
Uh, I
yeah.
used I used I used to use Google Draw as our virtual tabletop, which just goes to show that you can run a game with anything. And I love to look at where we've come from because we have come so far. Like I have come from I still have like all of my tiles and all of my like little miniatures. And we've come from janky little tiles, janky little miniatures, little Mancala beads to show off where the enemies were, to now using full blown 3D modeled VTTs, applications like Foundry, a server with over 200 members. Like we've come a long way. We've come a very long way, and I'm just grateful every day.
Come here, you. Sometimes you just drop the doors in easy, but then other times you're like, I really need them to be centered because it just looks so much better.
Me and my thousands of screens.
Dude, I think, yeah.
And I've got a yeah. I've also learned a lot about just how to move in this industry specifically. I think that besides Discord, the general marketing yourself aspect of creating and doing your own thing um, was not lost on me, but it was something that was harder for me to do. And um, I think I've definitely learned a lot and grown a lot in that aspect. Um, and I'm excited simply because I, just looking at where we've come from again, and I can only expect more and more amazing things from us.
For me, it was always like I always knew I was a creative person. I just always struggled to find like a proper outlet to actually like apply it. I'm good at doing things. I'm not good at like like applying it and making it a thing. Like you said, like this whole idea of like a game studio is just like totally beyond where me and my ambitions or just like my humble mindset kind of set takes me. which isn't to say it is off the table or anything like that. It's just, it's just not what I ever envision. Like I played D&D and DM'd and made like all my own content for what 2 3 years, like hand done slides, everything, like, and I was like, oh yeah, it's like free. D&D's free, and I love that aspect of the game that like you only need a piece of paper and some friends to play the game and nothing more.
Exactly.
And it's something I'm excited about. This project too is it's something that we care very dearly about, is people that want to just drop this map as a PNG and throw it in their Discord or even throw it on a Google Doc page. They'll be able to
Yeah.
use this just the same as someone who can boot up the full power Foundry VTT. So I think it's important to always have that aspect. I think it's great to have all these cool new thematics and to really build up your game. But just know in the at the end of the day, it's not really necessary. And what is necessary is
Mm.
is the important things. Like making
Intention.
intention, making sure everybody's heard at the table, making sure people are respected at your table. Like
Mm.
all these other things that are much more important than like how cool your map is or how exciting your module can become. Which you were
Yeah,
saying this earlier, which is
I completely
I
agree.
I I would love to just reiterate it is D&D at heart is a storytelling game. We don't sit at the table to play a video game. It's not a video game. We're telling a
Exactly.
story, and we have some mechanics that kind of make it feel like a game and can act like a game at sometimes with RNG and give you some cool direction. But at no point in time are the dice more important than the story or the role play or the characters and their intention.
They should go
Um,
hand in hand. They should be a part of the same thing, right? Because it's we could we we can always sit here and say, okay, the dice rule the game, or we could say no, the dungeon master and the players rule the game. But in my opinion, it needs to be a flexible amount of both for it to be still called a role playing game, right? For it to be a game, there needs to be a system of which we need to work within. For it to be a storytelling game, we need to invest ourselves in doing so. We need to invest ourselves in telling the story. Um, and I think that's just like I think if you continue to think like that and you continue to create your games with that in mind, that
mm.
the dice should at least influence parts of the story, and that the story shouldn't just be beholden to dice rolls. Um, that you can find a middle ground that makes it feel like both of those elements are cohesive and working together.
Let's see, almost got my doors
And
in here.
Micah, you have the perfect opportunity because you're going to be joining our Wednesday game. You're going to be playing this adventure that we're making right now. So don't you worry, sweet darling. In a short amount of time, you will be playing your first ever D&D game.
Not only that, you'll be getting to play one of my favorite like beginning sessions or campaigns or modules at the Lyceum College. Like I played this way back when it was in its baby steps of creation, and I still have so many cool memories like 7 Up, like those blunders, those had happenings. I have so much headcanon of this
Had
college.
happenings.
Yeah, my new favorite terminology, by the way. But just like I have so much headcanon about this place, it definitely helps for when I'm creating and building it up into an actual
Right.
graphic. But just in general, it's like it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite ways to start. It really gives this story to the character that sometimes it goes missing. I think in those first couple levels. What did
Yeah.
this character do? How did they get to here? What makes this character kind of who they are today.
What? We have a Carlos in chat?
Hey, all right.
Um,
Those are equidistant, so that's okay.
The
Okay.
Lyceum misses you too. Maya, don't worry about making a character. We're still a little ways out, and there will be a session 0. that I have with each of you personally to flesh all those things out. So don't worry. And we will be streaming it on Wednesday. So if you do want to tune in and watch, it will be around 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern. But like I said, we're still a little ways out. We're still in the map making phase, and I'm still hashing out some of those base mechanics, trying to really polish them so that way they feel ready to use at least before we start playtesting them.
Transforms into squirrels-based versions. Squirrel Bear, Squirrel Wolf.
I hate it, but my number one rule.
Yes,
Yes,
and.
yes, and I hate it, but that is the rule that we live by, and I think for any DM that I've given any tips and or pointers to, my biggest thing is the answer is always yes and whatever they are attempting to do, um, you know, regarding that it's still within the limitations of the rules.
and
Um,
and and blinds and veils as well.
and lines and veils, of course, the lines and veils that we set for the table. Um, just making sure we're always respecting each other's boundaries, but that's a given. Is yes and. I think as a dungeon master, it's probably one of the most powerful tools you can have in your kit. You know, you want to be a rabid halfling druid raised by squirrels, and every form you have is a little squirrely.
Let's
Yes
find a way
and.
to make it work, you know?
Yes, and every time you do this, you yourself become a little more squirrely. You know?
Come a little more squirrely.
Um, a session zero would basically be you and I, or perhaps you, myself, and the other players at the table sitting down and talking about what characters you have always wanted to play, what characters you've had ideas of playing, things that you love to see. And we would also do things like lines and veils. So I usually do two separate session zeros. I do a personal one-on-one, which is like a zero, like flat session zero, and then the session where all of the players and myself meet together at the table, so that way everyone can get acquainted with each other. They can talk amongst each other, introduce each other, and we start talking about general things that affect the entire table, like table rules, table etiquette, how we expect each other to show up to each session, and we do things like lines and veils. But the first session zero would be you and I talking about what it is you want from your role playing experience. What kind of fantasy are you trying to explore? Because that is what we're doing. We're exploring a fantasy world in which we get to do whatever we want, and I want to facilitate that for you. So it would look like me explaining what classes there are. It would look like me explaining what the world has to offer for you, where you would find yourself in this world, depending on what you choose. And it would look like us creating your character sheet and also creating art for your character using Hero Forge, another one of my favorite, absolute favorite applications. It's just between Hero Forge, between Dungeon Alchemist, like the 3D modeling applications out here for tabletop role playing games have taken leaps and bounds and brought us into this amazing new era. And I cannot gush about them anymore. Like, it's absolutely insane. Um, but I take that session zero as a chance for us to basically talk about what you want to see and what you are hopeful for. And the
Pretty
session
much the game you want to play.
0.1, right, the game you want to play, the character you want to see. And the session 0.1 is where I bring all of those ideas that I've gathered from you all to the table. And again, we talk about lines and veils, which are a tool that we use to protect each other and protect ourselves. Um, so we set boundaries for everyone because it is a role playing game, because these situations are so expansive and can be anything. We need to take into account that some people have sensitivities and have things that they may not feel comfortable being exposed to. And we make sure that everyone is heard and everyone is seen and we continue that dialogue from the moment that we hit that session 0.1, all the way until the end of the game. So those lines and veils are always open to be added to, and not so much negotiated, because if someone has a line or a veil, it is going to be put in place, period. Your voice will always be heard. But if you've reached a point in yourself where you no longer feel like that's something that you are uncomfortable with, or you maybe perhaps find something that you have grown to be uncomfortable with, it's always an open dialogue, and it's always important that we make that known. So that's part of that session 0.1. Besides getting to know each other, and we might even get the chance to do a little warm up, to warm up our role playing, to get more acquainted with each other, and that could look like anything. It really just depends on how spicy I'm feeling. It really just depends on where we all are at the time, because it's hard to presume anything. I never do. I just expect that the world will give me what I need in the moment. As the DM, I love to just roll the dice and see what happens, you know? So you'll get a little introduction to me and my DM style, and we'll also see if everyone at the table is a good fit. There you go. That's the breakdown of the session 0. Carlos, we miss you so much,
Yeah,
and
for
we
real.
cannot wait for you to come back. Um, Meredith Vanilla Bean Kachu, Circle of the Acorn Druid.
Give me some solid ideas here.
Yeah, terms of service for the game. Exactly. It's a social contract,
Yep.
um, which a friend of mine reminds me is like a very it's a very good phrase that I haven't used a lot of, but I have a friend that has put that earworm into my head. But yes, a social contract that we all sign and agree to, um, with workable agreements here and there. But yeah, I'm so excited. We have some veteran players joining us for the Wednesday game, and we have a good amount of new players as well. Um, and I just can't wait to really see this all come to fruition. Um, the Lyceum is just gonna be. The Lyceum is just it's gonna be so good. I just feel it in my bones. I'm so excited. Um, our demonic pax has been moved, or excuse me, diabolic designs, that was last season.
Yeah, right.
Diabolic designs has been moved to Sundays. So if you are free on Sunday, Carlos, please, 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 we would love to have you. You have no
And
idea.
yeah, anybody in the stream, if you'd like to check us out and see our role play in action, we stream Sundays at 8 o'clock Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern, yep.
Yeah.
And you'll catch that on my stream. You can also catch up with the 30 something episodes that we have up on YouTube. You can go ahead and check them out if you want to catch up,
Yeah.
and
Links up
see the
top.
progression.
The lore masters.
That's me. Yeah, you want to catch up on our 30 something episodes, go ahead and feel free. You get to see a little bit of how I DM, and you get to see a little bit of what we're working with. And you also get to see like I said, the amazing progression of where we started to where we are now, where, I was first starting to stream and not really, not really so savvy. Not that I'm like amazing or anything now, but I've definitely learned a lot more. Damn, I'm I hate to hear that, but I hope that there is soon to be a time where you will be able to join us. There will be plenty more games. We are starting a new era of sessions. We've got our Wednesday coming up. There will be a World of Darkness game starting up as well. And our Friday session, now Sunday session, will be delving into a new era as well, as we finish up that narrative, and we leave the rest of that story perhaps for me to write later. I don't know. I've thought about that. There's a couple campaigns that I want to put down in novel form, I do too. I do too. Mimic says, I sort of wish we had recorded my first game just so I could see my own progression. And
Mm.
honestly, I can say from my personal accounting, a completely different role player. A completely different role player. Um, and has grown so much. And I've seen that in a lot of the players that we've had in our games. So I'm really excited to see what this new generation of new players for these upcoming games will look like in a couple years. And I won't make the mistake of not documenting it this time. We'll have a complete record of all of these things. And I don't know. I can't say it enough. I'm excited. I'm really excited. We've got some really amazing things coming up, and I'm just excited to see what they look like.
I think I lucked out here. It's a very nice banner that's matching my wood frame here.
Oh yeah, very perfectly. I mean, can we get a zoom out one more time? Can we get a zoom out on the map?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I am continually blown away. Um, again, this is the second floor,
Should figure
and
something out
we
with
had
that.
a lot of great ideas about how we wanted the Lyceum to look. And I I'm glad that I've gotten over the control freak in me, and I've just been able to sit back and watch Mitchell work his magic because it truly is. It's magic. I don't have the brain to do all that he is doing, and he's certainly made it very apparent that like look at the detail, look at the attention to the space. Like I it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's not done yet. Guys, it's not done yet. Sigh. So lucky. I'm so lucky.
I'm so
So lucky.
excited just to not only see this in its full grandeur, but like get to play it as well.
Mitch himself is magic. Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you. Do it, little tricksy doodle there. Always love cheating banisters into themselves.
We love the Trixie Doodle.
It's literally like this is how you do it, because like you're never gonna win. You're never gonna have a perfectly spaced out room. It's always gonna be off a little bit, but like you just take even like these banisters too are great for it too. You just take a pole and you slide the pole into the pole kind of. So like you just like do hide that one and that one and bada
Little
bing.
cheatsy doodle.
Yeah, a little cheatsy doodle. It's like how well can you just like hide some stuff? Which is kind of like it's really weird, but it is how my brain like works. It's kind of like how I approach math in the sense of like, like, okay, you told me to do it this way, but if I just move the numbers around in my own method, like a little bit this way, then like, yeah, I totally get it, and I don't need to write it down, and like, like, um, or conversely, like what I was a substitute teacher about 6, 8 years ago, and I was doing math, and they had new math, and I was just like, oh my. So I was like trying to help the students, and I tried just like using one method that I knew, or just like a different method that they'd been teaching, and they're like, oh no, like no. We can only know math in this one method, and I'm like that. I was like compose myself, but like after the class, I was like, that's not how math works. Like that's not numbers. There isn't one way to not like the numbers equal the same answer, but like the way you formulate them, there's a bunch of ways to formulate answers. And new math is weird. I'm just gonna be the old person in the room. They have all this other stuff going on, but tangent. This is kind of just how my brain sees things. Like I can just like place things over here and hide this over there, and just like a lot of times I'll just like confidently put something down and be like, yeah, I can cover that up later. I have no plan. I have no actual way of knowing I'll be able to cover it, but I'm confident, and then I find a way to cheesy doodle it.
Cheatsy doodle.
Literally, it's just like, and I'm like, oh, look at that, I can cover it up. I'm really excited about this banister. I love banisters.
It looks really good. It looks really good. Yeah, and um, I'm just the editor slash social media manager. I just do the posts. I just manage the community, and and I write some things here and there. But honestly, I'm glad that I'm doing it alongside someone, because my brain works in very different ways. And I've definitely tried my hand at making maps, and I've definitely made them, but they feel very sparse and lifeless. I think you have a very special way of making them just feel so alive and making them feel so full. I think you just have like a really great eye for that.
That's how I feel when I read the things you write. I'm just like, if I wrote this, it would feel hollow and basic, and like I would have some of these descriptive words in here, but like it just doesn't have that feel that like when you read something like it definitely shows in your experience and your inspirations. And I think we definitely complement each other very well in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now we just need to get more members on our team, and the bigger our team grows, the better it gets. That's
Gonna be a studio.
my opinion. I'm gonna be studio. Welcome to the studio. I'm in the stew.
A bit,
What about you? Okay, I'm sorry.
definitely went in a direction there.
don't don't judge me.
Not
Don't judge
sure.
me.
Let's see. Attacking a dice. Oh, the banister. Look how good the banister, everybody. All right, where am I at? Where am I at? Clock. Ooh, I got time. We're gonna finish this banister. I got time.
Yeah, we've got like 20 minutes left on the stream, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I try to keep it about 2 hours just so like I stay fresh on Dungeon Alchemist because if you just grind hours out in this, the pixels start blending, you lose your that natural inspiration. So I try to keep it short and fresh, and also I got the kid coming. So
Listen, I stared at that Word document for weeks before I made any real progress. So
is that part of the recipe though? Is that like the
it
weird?
is. It is. It's like honestly, it is. It has to like permeate my brain so that way it becomes the hyper focus.
Yeah.
You're laughing, but I'm so serious.
I
Like
believe you. It's
it
just
needs,
funny because it's like why are brains like that?
like I need to literally stare at this document and live in this document so that way it becomes my hyper focus. So that to the point where like I dream about it and then I can wake up and hyper focus on it the first thing in the morning, bang out whatever it is that's in my mind, and then bam, it's on the paper, and I can like
Mm.
step away from it. Um, but honestly, I get most of my inspiration from other people. Like I had mentioned earlier in the stream, the mercenary, the class that I created, which is still being play tested, would not have existed had it not been for you, Mitchell, when we were in a conversation about how equipment items are so useless and you wanted to play like a grenade based martial class. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not really a thing. And you're like, well, let's make it a thing. And here we are. Here we are a year later, and there's 9 total subclasses to a fully fleshed out class,
Mm.
that bases itself all around equipment items and bringing marshals to a higher degree of potency, than they've seen in any of the editions. I think, well, besides first edition, but it's a little it's a little different.
Mm.
Um, 7 Up says, if you ever get a chance, I fully recommend making a map based on the inside of a colossus, like the beasts
Ooh.
from the Breath of the Wild. Massive dungeons inside a fully autonomous war engine that, while unstoppable in its movement from objective to objective, is horrendously slow. An imminent walking disaster that each target must watch day by day move inch by inch closer to destroy them all. The inside of it is a literal dungeon to complete, leading to the final conflict with the master. That's interesting. I like
Hmm.
that a lot. Yeah, taking that from, and that's another thing. I take a lot of ideas, from other games. I think, the most important thing about game design and game theory is looking at what our predecessors have done, and looking at what they've done well and filling in those gaps, which is why I look at a lot of what Wizards of the Coast and other third parties have published because they've already done so much, right? I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I don't need to reinvent the D20. I do, however, have the ability to iterate and add to the conversation. And to have a conversation, there needs to be more than one person talking. And I think I learned a lot of that from when I was first DMing, and I would have an idea and I'm like, oh no no no, that's too much like this thing that I've already seen. And it's like, oh no no no, that's too much like this book that I'm reading. It's like I don't want people to think that like I'm just completely ripping off this book. No, that's not the case. Unfortunately, no one has ever had a unique idea. In my opinion, we all are living in a basis of consciousness that is shared. And someone somewhere has had that idea. And if you
Mm.
do not use that idea, that flow of energy and that flow of consciousness is going to find someone else. And whether or not they bring it out into the world and make it real is going to decide whether or not, you see it yourself. If you have an idea, no matter how similar it seems to something else, just do it. Like, I didn't realize that I put a giant sandworm in the middle of a desert in one of my campaigns. That was very eerily similar to the sandworms from Dune until one of my players pointed it out. I'm like, oh yeah, I love that book. I can't believe I didn't realize that I totally did that. I totally was not thinking about that book in the moment, but it's like having that shared consciousness, that melding of ideas.
Well, I
But
think this
yes, games,
is
books, TV shows, movies, steal, 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 steal.
this
But of
is
course, don't plagiarize.
I agree 100%. And like even like I would do this like in some of my jobs and business, like where I was like watch what other people do, take their techniques and use them for my own, ability. But I think this is the secret power of yes and where you kind of source your players' ideas and instead of taking, this player's crazy wild idea as derailing or a negative or a detriment, you take it and you prop it up and turn it into this really cool idea that is now used. And as a DM, that's arguably one less thing you had to prep. That's one less thing you had to come up with on your own. And you're definitely going to guarantee that it's something they're interested in, which is like another question as DMs is like, is what I'm creating what my characters
Exactly.
want? Well, you just literally gave them what they want, like freaking as clear as day as you can give it.
Right, exactly. And I think that's part of the reason why I love character based stories so much is because you gave me a backstory that you worked very hard on. Why would I ignore it? Why would I ignore it? Why would I put it to the wayside and completely focus on this narrative that you had no part in, but you're just thrust into? Who cares about the big bad evil lich? Like, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. You are trying to find your prized cow because you accidentally sold it for some beans and you don't want to go back home and disappoint your mom. Why do you care about a lich? What does that have to do with your cow? Did I even read your backstory? It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
But my cow.
Like, you know what? Yes, your cow is important, and we are gonna find your cow.
We're here for your cow.
We are here for your cow. Okay. Yeah, I think it's completely important that we prioritize the players. Because myself as a dungeon master, I'm a facilitator, I'm a mediator, I'm an improvist, improv.
I
Improviser.
improvise.
I improvise, and um, you can't do that alone. You really can't. You can't. You can't sit here and have a conversation by yourself.
So
I
that's
mean, I can,
something
but
that's
that's a
something
different situation.
that I'll touch on. I think is a great point. Let's imagine a world where you play D&D and you are literally just by yourself. You have nobody else in your party in your room, and you try to role play with yourself. How fun is that? How interesting is that going to be? How long are you going to play that game with yourself in your brain? You know, the what makes D&D fun and tabletop fun is the interaction. Is letting other people talk. Is letting other people's ideas and backgrounds be part of the story and how you get to interact with them and how you get to be a part of their story, you know?
We live for witty banter. We live for inside jokes. I think some of my favorite interactions are when I step back and I let my players interact with each other and they have heartfelt moments or they get on each other's nerves. And I see a lot of that in our Sunday game where you've all, especially, I mean, we've created a really great rapport between each other and we've all become very comfortable with one another. But to see how you all interact as your characters in this world that we've created together is just mind blowing because it makes it feel that much more alive, and it
Mm,
makes it feel that much more important and worth it. You know, and I've seen plenty of solo RPG games, but they don't focus on role playing.
no.
They focus on the mechanics and the hex crawl and the rolling dice bit, which is a different game than what I myself like to run, and that's very apparent just in general. Like we love high drama, we love high fantasy, we're here for it all, and honestly, hot tub stream, you know, that's another thing. I look to some of the dungeon masters that I've met along the way who have done some really amazing streams and had just really amazing ideas that have blown me out of the water. Like Cat's hot tub stream for the Wakes of Woe game, if you
Yeah,
remember
I
that.
think I really loved that. That was one of the few times I think in my role play history where I wanted to tune in and just watch and not talk, not interact, not do anything, just sit back and just watch and just learn about my fellow party mates and their perspectives and kind of that raw like unadulterated response, something that might be veiled behind some personality flaws or traits, something that they might not just tell you off the cuff, but in this like it's like this very like real world like reality almost type vibe where you're like you got the hot camera and you're on the hot seat, but you're just speaking off the chest. I loved that, and I thought it was a very original and cool and fun idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great creators out there.
I'm so
There's a
good
lot of great,
sometimes.
it's
Sorry, I just
super
like
good.
I zoomed out and I just clicked a bar and deleted it, and it was right in the middle. It was like I didn't even have to measure or aim or nothing. I was just like, oh, that's centered. I'm awesome.
Oh, we're working on the restricted section
It
now.
is done. I just put the gates on it. I just gotta put some bookshelves and get it fancy. But yeah.
I would
Da
love to see Vampire
da
Stark at the beach.
da 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 da. Yeah.
I would love it.
Check it out, dude. Nobody's getting those books without somebody seeing.
He's screaming in the chat about a beach episode. Look what you did. Look what you did. Yeah, maybe possible.
All right.
Maybe we finish this very intense narrative that we're in the middle of right now before we do a beach episode question.
Why don't we just head on back to Ajaib? I literally destroyed the government. It's just sitting there waiting for somebody to take it over, turn it into a beach
Yeah.
resort, a beach resort for devils and demons. Call all your vampire friends over there at Darkhold and be like, "Hey, come on over, 1 week stay, all inclusive." Um,
You guys you guys actually are evil. Like you as people, not even just your characters. You as people are
no
evil.
way, no way.
You've created a power vacuum in a government and have been toying with it ever since. and have just tossed it to the wayside.
It's a long-term goal, okay? I'm letting nature take its course, and eventually I'll go back. And now I have a destabilized government and city, and a large population, which I can then bend to my will. I don't see how that's completely out of the question. Oh,
So I resign.
evil campaigns are
I
great.
quit. I quit.
You know,
Actually,
we
I
walked
quit.
into El Truel and I just got a bad vibe. And I was like, we could do things better. What if there was a Cirque Magnifique style city, right? And I thought Ajayi might be a good spot for that.
Ugh. All the work that the players from Dominion of Man had done to prop up that city and take it out of what it
Wait, was
was
that a
now.
Western March propped up city?
Yeah, the Dominion of Man is the reason why Ajayiv was in its technological advanced
Oh
stages.
my god! And
We just
I sent an assassin in and just we put a vampire plague upon it and just literally just destroyed
you
that city.
assassinated their Khalifa. You you scorched the city with a vampire plague.
Was Jadot the rightful heir to that succession as well?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
so we got 1-2, like we went down the line.
yep, yep. You killed the Khalifa. You killed the Khalifa's successor.
Jadot deserved it though. That dude was trifling.
Well,
Dude was
like I said,
trifling.
nothing is ever black and white.
Trifling
Who
playing.
knows?
And honestly, in the who I'm really sad for Drian because she was caught up in everybody's bullshit and was a truly kind individual. Her father was bullshit. Her lover was bullshit. Her new lover Atlantis was bullshit. All these freaking people that came into her life, bullshit. Poor gal. Poor gal.
All the men in her life let her down. It's
Literally,
sad.
literally. And I had such high hopes for Atlantis, but man, was that scene powerful.
You
When
know, me
oh,
too.
dude, when
Oh
that
no.
uh that when the love interest started between Gianna and Atlantis, I hated it. I absolutely hated it because I thought it was ruining everything Gloombringer was trying to do, and B, I was like, oh, here we go. We're gonna get caught into this another story, and then I just like fell in love with the story. It like overcome me. I don't know why. It was so heartfelt, touching, and then the motherfucker did what we all expected him to do, but didn't think he would actually do. It was like such a bad soap opera. It was so romance. It was like, yeah,
I'm pretty sure I have
wild.
clips of that somewhere. I have
I
clips of it
hope
somewhere. And if we don't
that.
have clips, I'm gonna go and make
Dude,
clips.
I'm pretty sure like there's a couple tears dropped between the interaction between you and Atlantis. Like you got to say some really powerful lines, and like Atlantis was like at his all time low. It was like powerful.
God, God damn! You guys are such good role players.
I have so much fun with it. It's so enjoyable. What's another thing I
Such good
used
role
to just I
players.
used to just get uncomfortable about it. And not like I disliked it, but like I've told you this before how you drop the improv ball on me, and you're like, oh, you hear
All the
this?
time.
We'll start the session and just like, oh, here's Mitch, here's Slayer in this scene, and then just stop talking, and I'm just like, um,
Go.
oh, this is me, this is my turn. What do I say? What am I doing? What am I thinking about? And then like I'll just like now like I'm so gotten used to it. I'm like I just bust out like this like little monologue of my brain when I'm thinking, and then it's like go here and like yeah. So it's like I've definitely and who inspires me the most in that manner, Ben's characters literally like so many times has he just been like in role play made a decision that's like canon story lore rich and just plays it out so well that it just becomes part of the story because you're like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ignore this piece like that was awesome like that made this like
That was awesome.
so you're like
Yes, I want that in the story.
I feel like a lot of times players might think they don't have the power to wield the story, but like very much take the reins and see what your DM
Yeah.
does, and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. I think
And
if you
I get to
have
do
a
that a
good
lot in those
DM,
opening scenes.
yeah, I think if you have a good DM, you would definitely find that taking the reins feels more powerful. It feels more rewarding. Um, and I hope that we get to really exemplify that with what we're doing here, and we get to create a new era of dungeon masters that that can walk and talk the part of an improver, of a storyteller, of a collaborative storyteller. Um, but yes, we're starting to pull together to end the stream for today. Thank you for everyone that joined us. Thank you
Yeah.
for hanging out, talking in chat, giving us your ideas. Um, I know for sure that we have a lot of amazing things coming up. So please stay tuned. Join us whenever you can, because we love having you here with us in this little place that we oftentimes call the real world. But until then, till we meet again, I will say, for now, good night, stream.
Good night, stream. If you want to check out some of the build progress, feel free to go over to my YouTube. Links up in the top left there. You can see some of the beginning spots of the build. But we'll be taking a break off this weekend, and I'll be starting the DA stream back up Monday. But of course, you can check us all out Sunday night for our D&D session. That's the evil party, so it's the fun one.
All right. Good night. Love you
Bye. We'll
all.
see ya.
Goodbye.